Welcome to this episode of Horrific History and Hauntings. I'm Beth.
And I'm Ramey. We're your hosts, here to talk about the stories that the history books ignore.
From horrific epidemics and ghostly hauntings to the catastrophes and tragic events that have sickened humanity.
Yes, indeed. Beth, what are we talking about today?
Tornadoes is our main episode, but for this day in history, we are going to talk about the Roanoke Island colony.
Oh, let me tell you what happened today in history to me. I was out feeding the chickens, which live in this big pen area in front of the old house we mentioned in the last episode. And a hive of honeybees that now live in the old house's wall found me.
Did you get stung?
I got stung right on the elbow. And then I ran away as quickly as possible.
Do they have honey?
Well, I didn't bust down the wall, but the only reason I know
That's actually kind of cool considering honeybees have been apparently scarce.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't too upset. And the fact I got away quickly before they swarmed me completely. I'm pretty sure once one stings you, they know where you're at and they come after you. I was on the front porch. I was walking into the old house to get to the chicken feed because we don't want to store it into the house, our house where we live, because there's, you get rodents and things when you have a lot of feed in one place and we don't want that. So I was going down there on the porch to get into the house and one got me on the elbow. And that's when I realized there was a whole hive and they started swarming and I seen them coming out of the wall and I ran into the house, shut the door, and used the cluttered back porch to escape after I got the food. Now I'm going to have to go through the cluttered back porch until winter, I guess.
Well, at least the house is being used for something good.
Yeah.
I guess.
I don't mind. Nobody lives there.
Yeah.
Okay, now tell me about Roanoke. I'm sure they got their fair share of bee stings.
I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. John White, governor of the Roanoke Island colony, returned from a supply run in England on August 18th, 1590, only to find the settlement he left behind had vanished without a trace.
Former governor.
Yeah, a governor of nobody. There was no sign of the 100 or so colonists, and there was no evidence of a struggle. It was left a ghost town.
I'm pretty sure they covered this. I think Andre Lenoge killed them. I think Stephen King covered this.
Yeah, I guess that's one theory. Yeah.
What was it? The Storm of the Century?
Yeah.
A sorcerer called Andre Lenoge done it.
I only first watched that a few years ago.
I watched it many years ago.
The colonists' fate remains a mystery. It continues to baffle historians. John White's daughter, Eleanor Dare, and his granddaughter, Virginia Dare, which was the first English child born in America, were among the missing.
Well, that didn't bode well.
Yeah.
Didn't they have Croatoan written on the tree somewhere? Like carved it on a tree?
I always heard it was written on a tree, but this article said it was on a fence post.
It's all hearsay, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But August 18th was also the day of his discovery, was also said to have been Virginia's third birthday.
Oh, he was going to show up on her birthday.
Yeah. Only the word Croatoan was found carved into a fence post, or, as you said, tree. I'm not sure which one. I've heard both. White interpreted this as a sign that the colonists had relocated to the Croatoan Island, but when they searched, there was still no trace of them.
Well, that's
unfortunate.
That's still a mystery. We really don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. That's weird. The Croatoan.
They are remembered in the many novels and science fiction, fantasy, horror. They come up so often.
This was actually not the first attempt to settle Roanoke. It was initially in 1585, a colony faced starvation and Indian attacks, forcing them to retreat back to England. White's return to England for supplies was delayed because of the Anglo-Spanish War?
British-Spanish War.
Oh, okay. But when he finally arrived, the colonists had vanished. Recent archaeological
Wow.
Recent research suggests a possible contributing factor to the colony's demise. They found that 3-ring data from trees in Virginia revealed severe drought conditions between 1587 and 1589, and this harsh environment likely played a role in the fate of the lost colony, but their destination still remains unknown. There's one theory that suggests they went with the Croatoan tribe, but it's unknown. I wonder why they didn't go find the tribe and ask them.
Maybe they weren't on the best terms when he first left and he just assumed the worst.
Maybe.
I don't know enough about that history. I know we got a Roanoke near us, but it's a whole different Roanoke and it's nowhere near the sea.
Yeah.
In comparison to the rest of Virginia. It's a good mystery.
Yeah. I don't think that's one that we'll ever solve.
We could tell what a mummy ate before it died, so don't call it impossible.
I guess I'd better talk about tornadoes now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to list off some facts about tornadoes first, and then we're going to go into actual tornadoes that have happened.
They're one of the main characters in the new Twisters movie.
Yes, I watched it, and then I started watching all these documentaries and YouTube videos, and then looking up random questions I had and started taking notes. And I've spent about a day's worth of time doing this research and taking the notes, and I'm still not finished. So it's going to be multiple parts. Also, I am not going to do it every other week. I'm going to have them released every week. So don't get excited about that because I don't want to get your hopes up in having one every week. It's just at the moment I'm able to do it every week. So consider it an extra bonus thing.
Woohoo.
Yeah. A tornado is a whirling funnel-shaped cloud of violently rotating winds that can cause great amounts of destruction and death.
Surprise.
Yeah. As if you didn't know. On average, over 1,200 tornadoes hit the United States every year, and that is 4 times more than any other place in the world.
You really don't hear about them any other place.
No, but they do happen occasionally. Tornadoes often form during springtime, which is tornado season in the United States, and this is because the atmosphere contains both warm and cool air, and this temperature difference can cause the storm to start spinning. Tornadoes form from thunderstorms, where moist air rises, cools, and then condenses to form those big fluffy clouds called cumulonimbus clouds.
You got it right.
I know.
I learned that in school.
Yeah. But not every thunderstorm has the perfect conditions to create a tornado.
Thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
We had some pretty rough ones the last day or two.
Only about 1 in 5 thunderstorms have the perfect mix of moisture, energy, and wind speed to actually produce a tornado. It starts with a horizontal roll of cool air, and this happens when the cool air from evaporated rain meets the warm, moist air outside the storm. And that clash of cool and warm air is where the spin begins. The spinning air then approaches the updraft like a giant vacuum and gets pulled upward. Pretty much it gets sucked into the storm cloud. As the air rises, more air rushes in from the side to feed the updraft, and that causes the spinning column to tighten and become even more intense, like an ice skater pulling in their arms to spin faster, which creates a powerful vortex near the ground. And that's how the tornado forms.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to say about that.
Science.
Yeah.
A supercell storm is a type of thunderstorm that stands out with its towering clouds with a flat-shaped top stretching far across the sky. These storms are relatively rare but highly intense. Often they bring severe weather such as damaging winds, large hail, and sometimes tornadoes.
The tornado we had, it was not terrible, but it was terrible for our area.
It was
the
an
hail,
F3, it turns out.
Well, that was bad. But the hail damage was seen for years. People would drive around in their banged up vehicles. All they got replaced was the windshields because they wanted to keep the insurance money for something else. Entire car lots had to send out their stock just to replace. In vehicles alone, it was a fortune. Then, of course, the people hit directly by the tornado, their homes were gone. My best friend was in front of me in the road when it happened, and he drove right off the road into a giant hole on the side of the road thinking it was his driveway. He couldn't see. It was so dark.
I'm actually going to talk about that tornado later on. That's how I know it was an F3, where it was a few years ago, and it obviously was not very well known by most. It was kind of hard to find. Joey ended up helping me find a website to get the information.
Ah,
yeah.
It ruined a lot of people's lives around here.
What sets supercells apart is their rotating updraft called a mesocyclone, which can keep the storm going for hours if conditions are right. Tornadoes come in various shapes and sizes, each with its own name used by meteorologists to describe the tornado. A wedge tornado is generally as wide as it is tall. While many wedge tornadoes are capable of EF4 or EF5 damage, not all of them can be so intense or are so intense. Multi-vortex tornadoes, not just one but multiple swirling vortices dancing around within a larger tornado. These smaller vortices, called suction vortices, are sometimes visible. They cause devastating damage, leaving behind narrow, intense paths of destruction within the broader tornado track. One example is the El Reno, Oklahoma tornado of 2013, which I will also get into later. It had intense vortices within its larger circulation, the mobile Doppler radar clocking winds of 200 miles per hour or more. The rain-wrapped tornadoes are hidden by heavy rain, making them hard to see. Sometimes only radar or other tools can confirm if a tornado is even present. They often form within intense thunderstorms, either supercells with lots of rain, obviously, or in lines of strong storms.
Those are the scary ones. Yeah. Ones that stick out.
You just see rain. So it's kind of hard to tell until it's too late.
I wasn't close enough to the one near us to know if that's what it was like. We were miles away and still could not see. It was so dark.
Yeah, I don't know.
And we were
Mom
lucky.
wouldn't let me go outside.
We were very lucky. The hail went around us all. We didn't get nothing like what they got in lower parts of Bristol and
Glade Springs.
It's the reason we suffer. Same reason we suffer droughts when the areas around us doesn't. We're in this little valley.
Yeah. It rains literally right over the hill and we get to our spot and it's dry. The cone tornado is wider at the top near the clouds and swirls down to a narrower point where it touches the ground. And this is the classic tornado shape that most people picture. The stovepipe tornado stays about the same size from top to bottom and resembles a tall, narrow stovepipe.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just straight up and down. The rope tornado is a tornado that's nearing the end of its life cycle. It is like a thin, twisting rope dangling from the storm clouds.
I like to think of them as a whip.
Yeah, you could describe it that way. While it may seem less threatening due to its narrow appearance, it can still cause significant damage on the ground. Even when one tornado ends, if the supercell storm responsible for the first tornado develops a new rotation, another twister can still form. A landspout is like a cousin to the typical tornado, but it forms a little differently. Unlike funnel clouds dropping from supercell thunderstorms, landspouts start from the ground and grow up. Isn't that kind of like what a dirt devil looks like?
I think so.
Just probably a much bigger version. Wind coming from different directions creates a spinning motion near the ground. If a cumulus cloud is forming nearby, its upward draft can stretch and lift that spinning air. The stretching makes the spin faster and tighter, forming the landspout. Obviously, we're going to talk about waterspouts as well. They're basically a tornado that happens over water, but there's two main types that form in different ways. Fair weather waterspouts are the most common type, often spotted in warm places like Florida. They're not linked to thunderstorms. Their spinning motion starts at the water's surface, not high up in the clouds.
The fair weather tells you all you need to know.
They're mostly hazardous for just boats and ships and in the water. I'm assuming this is how it's pronounced. Tornadic waterspouts are less frequent, but more dangerous. They form from thunderstorms like regular tornadoes on land. They can start over water and move to the land, or over land and move to the water. This means they pose a threat to both people on land and water.
Those are the cool ones to watch.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy watching all of them, but yeah, they are unique. A fire tornado is next.
Scott loves those.
It's a fire-nado.
They really didn't get inventive with that one, did they?
Yeah. It's a combination of fire and rotating winds.
Surprise, you'd never guessed.
It starts with intense heat from a wildfire, causing air to rise rapidly. As this hot air rushes upwards, surrounding air rushes in to replace it, which creates a spinning motion. This spinning fire gets even more dangerous because it basically creates its own weather system.
Self-sustaining.
Yeah. The rising heat and smoke for a towering thunderstorm cloud, which further intensifies the upward draft and swirling winds. This supercharges the vortex so it can grow massive, throwing burning embers far distances, which causes the fire to spread even farther. It's important to note that smaller fire whirls are often mistaken for fire tornadoes, which you can actually YouTube it and see what the difference is.
Richard Hammond has a whole thing about tornadoes and wind.
Yeah, I like Richard Hammond. He was my favorite.
I like Jeremy and James.
The main difference is the size and intensity. Fire tornadoes create their own thunderstorms, as I mentioned, which make them much larger and more destructive. Don't volcanoes do that sometimes too?
I think they create lightning. Something to do with the particles rubbing against each other in the air.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a geologist or a
meteorologist. Or whatever that would be the study of.
A tornologist.
They usually only last a few minutes and they can reach heights of 50 meters, but some can grow to be a little over half a mile tall.
You can see those in wildfires. Like the first, whatever they're called again.
Yeah, I think there was one recently in a wildfire in California, maybe? I'm not sure if it was California or not. I've seen something about it, though.
It's always California is on fire.
Yeah. Some can grow to be a little over half a mile tall, with wind speeds exceeding 120 miles per hour and last over 20 minutes.
I mean, that's a lot when you think about how hot it is, too.
120 mile per hour swirling fire heading your way, towering over you. They can be strong enough to uproot trees as tall as 50 feet.
That didn't burn.
That didn't burn, yes. Once a fire tornado forms, it can become self-sustaining. It creates its own updraft and wind flow and draws in more oxygen and fuel to keep the fire and rotation going. The temperature inside a fire tornado can reach up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is hot enough to melt some metals.
But it's hot enough to melt me. That's all that matters.
Yeah. I'm not going to worry too much about the metals at that. I don't think I would be worrying too much about anything at that point.
No.
Oh.
I was concerned about fires recently because of all the drought we had before the rain started finally. Then the storm started.
Yeah. I was worried about fires when my electricity wasn't working right and they started pulling out partially burned insulation from my walls.
It's a good thing they put the fireproof insulation in there.
Mm.
The old house would have burnt down already. It was insulated with clothes that people didn't use anymore and sawdust.
Yeah. Though tornadoes can occur anywhere in the United States, most of them happen in an area called Tornado Alley. This area is located in the Great Plains. It includes parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska. The geography of Tornado Alley makes it the perfect place for tornadoes to form. When air travels from the Pacific and crosses over the Rocky Mountains, it sinks and becomes denser, and this increases the air pressure and causes the air to warm up. As this warm air moves eastward, it encounters winds carrying moisture from the Gulf of Mexico.
I was wondering how many historical sites are still in Tornado Alley and how many have just been blown away. I wanted like a stat sheet of how old most of the buildings are in that area.
That would be cool.
Especially in the older towns. How many are authentic, the old buildings?
Yeah.
And how many have just been replaced?
Yeah, that would be a nice thing to know. This further warms the air and fuels the growth of powerful storms, increasing the likelihood of tornadoes.
That's Tornado Alley.
Mm-hmm. However, tornadoes have been known to also form frequently in other states, including Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Kentucky.
The Great Lakes areas.
Yeah. Although this area experiences fewer tornadoes than Tornado Alley, it has a history of very destructive tornadoes. Some of the strongest tornadoes ever recorded have happened in that region. It also has been the site of several large tornado outbreaks, meaning multiple tornadoes from the same weather system. There's also Dixie Alley. It refers to a region in the southeastern U.S., including parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and Louisiana. These areas are prone to frequent and severe tornadoes, especially in late fall, winter, and early spring. Tornadoes here are particularly dangerous due to the area's dense population. They have common nighttime storms, or nocturnal tornadoes, I believe is what they're called.
Noctados.
They happen at night. And they have vulnerable structures, such as mobile homes as well. On the evening of December 10th, 2021, a powerful storm system swept across the central U.S., bringing severe weather, including several long-track tornadoes. A violent EF4 tornado began in northwest Tennessee and moved through 11 counties in western Kentucky. This caused widespread destruction. This tornado's 165.7-mile path is one of the longest in U.S. history. Another EF3 tornado with winds up to 160 miles per hour started in Dyer County, Tennessee, and traveled 122.7 miles into Kentucky's Christian and Todd counties. And the reason I mention this is because I'll be going into more detail about one of these tornadoes in Mayfield, Kentucky later. Tornadoes also vary in strength and can cause different levels of damage. The Enhanced Fujita Scale, or EF scale, measures tornado strength. It's based on the damage they cause to structures and estimated wind speeds. The Fujita scale was first introduced in 1971 by meteorologist Ted Fujita from the University of Chicago. In 2007, storm experts adopted an enhanced version of the scale that provides more detailed descriptions of tornado damage. Unlike hurricanes, which are classified by measured wind speeds, tornadoes are categorized based on the destruction they leave behind. As wind speeds during a tornado are challenging to measure, they obviously have to do it by
devastation.
Yeah. After a tornado has passed, experts assess the damage and estimate the wind speeds and classify the tornado using the Enhanced Fujita scale.
I remember when I watched the first Twisters movie way back when,
Mhm.
they used F this and F that.
Yeah.
And now they say EF, and I was like, where'd that come from?
Yeah. That's why.
Now I know.
It's enhanced.
Okay.
The scale ranges from EF0 to EF5. EF0 being weak, wind speeds of up to 65 to 85 miles per hour, and they cause minor damage like broken branches and damaged gutters. EF1 is moderate, with wind speeds of 86 to 110 miles per hour, which causes moderate damage, such as roofs being stripped off, like the shutters.
You mean shingles?
Shingles. Not shutter. Well, EF2 is significant, with wind speeds of 111 to 135 miles per hour. It causes significant damage, including large uprooted trees and roofs being torn off well-constructed homes, like the whole roof.
Mm-hmm.
EF3 is severe, wind speeds of 136 to 165 miles per hour. Entire stories of well-constructed homes destroyed, and heavy cars can be lifted off the ground. That was what the one near us was, an EF3. EF4 is extreme. Wind speeds are 166 to 200 miles per hour. It causes extreme damage, leveling well-constructed homes and throwing vehicles like missiles.
The nightmare stuff.
Yeah. And then there's EF5. That's catastrophic. There's wind speeds over 200 miles per hour. It can cause damage such as strong framed homes completely swept away and steel structures severely damaged, pretty much basically flattening out, completely destroying.
You better have an underground bunker.
Yeah. About 1% of tornadoes in the United States are classified as EF4 or EF5s. On average, only 1 to 5 of these powerful tornadoes occur each year. However, due to their immense power and the widespread destruction they cause, these tornadoes are usually the most memorable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure the first Twister movie had at least 2 of those, right?
I know the very first one was an EF5. I say the last one was EF4 or EF5, I'm assuming.
Scott watched that movie when he was a kid and had nightmares. And you went around, the tomato's going to get me.
Yeah. My fascination with tornadoes began, and weather in general. And yes, the tomatoes were coming to get me.
It's a good thing we didn't actually have that tornado at that young age. You would have been traumatized.
Yeah, probably. A tornado watch indicates that the weather conditions are favorable for a tornado to develop, while a tornado warning means a tornado has either been spotted or detected on radar, which means it's...
I want to call it an alert, because a warning just doesn't... I think warning should be what watch is.
Well, the warning pretty much means it's the real deal. There is, in fact, a funnel of destruction on the ground, and you should take immediate action to seek shelter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not an overpass, apparently.
No, not an overpass.
That's what I hear. I don't know for sure.
That's a true thing. I'll get into it in just a minute.
Okay.
It's actually right after I say this. Tornadoes can strike suddenly with little to no warning sometimes. Being able to spot the early signs is essential. You should watch out for the most obvious sign, which is a rotating funnel-shaped cloud. If you see a swirling cloud of trash or debris, you should probably stop admiring the scenery and run to shelter. The sky is dark or green-colored. There's large hail and sounds of loud roar like a freight train.
That sounds awful.
Yeah. I guess if you're colorblind like Scott, you should probably just watch out for the cloud of trash heading your way. Surviving a tornado depends on smart choices to take shelter. Avoid anything that can be easily moved or destroyed, such as cars, mobile homes and trailers, windows or death traps, higher floors. The southwest corner of buildings is also more vulnerable. Need a compass.
Why?
I don't know.
That sounds, depending on which way the...
I'm going to look it up.
that sounds like it should depend on where you are in the world.
Since tornadoes can move in any direction, this is false, apparently.
Did you just AI this or something earlier?
No, it says National Weather Service on this. No, I didn't AI it.
Why would that be a recommendation? Where did that recommendation come from?
The southwest corner is no safer than any other part of the basement because walls, floors, and furniture can collapse or be blown into any corner. Debris such as motor vehicles can also be pushed into the basement by a tornado. What does that have to do with anything?
Why was it even assumed that it would make a difference?
I don't know.
Where did you get that from?
I just looked up a bunch of random websites.
Well, you might want to be a little bit more careful about that. We just got a bunch of people killed. Anybody listening? We can't be saying that you're going to be much safer on the southwest corner. I don't care if it's a shack.
It was the least safe. It said least safe. Okay.
It'd be like my emergency bunker is over there, but I'm going to hide in the bathtub on the other side because that's a bad side.
Oh, yeah. Higher floors obviously are more dangerous. Being outdoors is the worst possible option. And if caught outside, don't head for an underpass. It can actually make it worse by intensifying, speeding up the wind. I looked this one up too because I was wondering why it was so dangerous. Underpasses can create a wind tunnel effect where the wind is funneled and accelerated. And there's also the chance that it'll collapse on top of you.
Ah. I just thought about the wind speeds. I didn't have any idea that they were that fragile. We drive across them all the time.
Yeah. Although no place is entirely safe during a tornado, some locations offer more likely protection than others. Some of the safer places include storm cellars and basements, an interior room on the lowest floor of a building, such as the bathroom in the tub, closets, hallways, rooms with no windows. If living in a mobile home, you should try to find a nearby sturdy building to take shelter.
Yeah.
And come up with a family emergency tornado plan that everybody knows. If you find yourself caught outside or in your vehicle, don't try to outrun the tornado in your car. The tornado will win. Seek shelter in a ditch or a low-lying area. Lie flat on your stomach, cover your head with your hands, and face away from the storm.
Preferably not was it southeast?
Yeah. Stay away from vehicles.
Just find a ditch where there's no car.
Yeah, they can be easily tossed around.
I would use a drain pipe.
Yeah.
It might just be an overpass in the ground, though. I don't know.
I was going to say, there's also the rain, and there could possibly be flooding, which will just kill you that way.
I don't know. I don't know how long they linger in the same area. So once, I mean, I know where there's a giant drain pipe. A
tornado usually, only lasts about 10 to 15 minutes, but we'll go into some others that last a lot longer.
Traveled from Tennessee to Kentucky.
Yeah. The local Glade Springs tornado is the first one up.
Okay.
It happened on April 28, 2011, classified as an EF3, and the winds reached nearly 140 miles per hour.
So close to when Skyrim came out. 11.
What an odd thing to
I remember the day that Skyrim came out. 11/11/11. How quickly I just moved on with my life. I'm playing that game again now.
No. The storm managed to flip over 18-wheelers, one of which was lifted and hurled into the corner of the Iron Skillet restaurant at the nearby truck stop, Petro truck stop.
Was it the southwest corner?
I don't know. I actually deliver a lot there. Next time I'll stop and I'll see. Many others were tossed around like toys. And if you look up the pictures, which you should, there's 18-wheelers lying on their sides everywhere.
Yeah, there was a truck stop.
Yeah.
They were, and it's a highway. The interstate runs right through it.
Yeah.
That's why there's a truck stop.
The Petro truck stop sustained approximately $500,000 in damage. However, it was repaired and reopened in only about 2 months. The tornado claimed 3 lives and injured more than 50 people. One woman's home was shifted 1/4 of an inch off of its foundation.
I'm pretty sure my old home shifted that much while I was still living in it.
The next tornado up is the one that Mark actually told us about when I told him that my next one was going to be on tornadoes. It's also nearby. Rye Cove Cyclone is what it's called, which it's known for that, I'm assuming, not only because of the location, but because of the song. And they're still called cyclones in some places.
I like the name better.
On May 2nd, 1929, our local Scott County, Virginia, experienced a powerful F2 tornado. Given the time period, the records were not well kept, but it is known that it caused at least 42 deaths and left at least 300 injured. This tornado was part of a larger intense outbreak that swept through the Appalachian Mountains, and it remains one of the deadliest in Virginia's history. It's also tied for the 13th deadliest tornado to strike a school in the United States.
I didn't even know that was monitored that well.
I didn't either.
It's a terrible stat to have to go through.
Yeah. The Rye Cove tornado struck at around 1 p.m., and it caught everyone off guard. The school unfortunately offered a little protection once the roof was easily ripped right off, according to the survivors. This also caused a wood stove to burst into flames as the building collapsed. Outside, the scene was just as chaotic, with the twister uprooting trees, and it even obliterated the nearby flour mill. No bread, no pancakes.
No biscuits, no school.
In the aftermath, debris was found scattered across a path 1/4 mile wide and 3 miles long. Scott County Schools Superintendent William D. Smith found that the tornado had destroyed the school's only attendance record, which left no way to account for the missing, injured, or deceased students.
Now, parents should have a hand in that.
Yeah, I would assume if your child didn't come home or came home with a
You would report
stick
that.
inside of them or something,
Yeah.
they would.
You'd probably report that to the school.
Yeah,
Or back then, you might not. You might just move on with your life. And
just be happy your kid's alive,
yeah,
or notice that your kid's not.
that would be less happy. But yeah.
Yeah. While records were lost, it is known that the Rock Cove cyclone claimed the lives of 12 students and 1 teacher, and the teacher's body was found to be thrown yards away from the school. Survivors were rushed to neighboring towns for medical attention. Some boarded trains headed to Bristol, while others were transported by ambulance to Kingsport, Tennessee. Narrow, winding roads, only partially paved as well, made it difficult to transport and get help there. This especially was harder due to the heavy rains that accompanied the tornado.
If you ever try to get up a dirt driveway in heavy rains, you know how bad it could probably be.
Yeah. And from what I understand, it should have been faster to get to Kingsport, but as I mentioned, they had not great windy roads instead of the one straight highway that's there now. So the train route offered a faster journey to Bristol rather than to Kingsport due to the train passing through Mendota, where the Mendota Trail is now located. The Rykov cyclone drew the attention of a country singer named A.P. Carter.
He came up for the song, "Shake Your Body Like a Cyclone."
No, wrong song. He, along with his wife and cousin, rushed to Scott County to offer aid. He was met with a scene of devastation describing the discovery of bodies along the wreckage and debris. And this inspired him to write the song Cyclone of Rye Cove.
Never heard it.
Never heard it.
I'll have to listen to it now.
Yeah.
You didn't even listen to it after you found out about it?
No.
What? I hear about a song in something, like some of the RPG books I cover, TTRPGs, they have like a recommended album to listen to get you in the mood to play the song or to play the game. And I look up every song out of curiosity. And you heard about a song about a local tornado and didn't even listen to it.
No, I was trying to, I told you I was in the groove. I wasn't trying to listen to a song.
Okay. I'm doing some research. Time for a ditty.
By the fall of 1930, a new school was built. Today, a memorial stands featuring the original school's bell and a list of the 13 lives lost in the school during the Rye Cove cyclone.
How far away from us is that?
I don't know. As I mentioned before, the Rye Cove tornado was just one of several that day. Earlier, 2 other schools in Bath County had been struck.
That's where we used to go camping all the time.
Uh-huh.
Our daddy and grandpa.
Yep. They luckily had already dismissed their students, though. So,
Well, that's good.
no harm there to lives
Except
of
for
the students anyway. I don't know about
education,
anybody else.
Maybe, but
Yeah. Next up is the El Reno tornado.
okay.
On May 31st, 2013, a record-breaking tornado measuring 2.6 miles wide formed near El Reno, Oklahoma.
That's terrifying.
Yes, this one was 2.6 miles. Can you imagine? Like, you need to look that one up, actually,
You would have
on
to be-
videos.
in order to
because
get-
it was massive.
There's not enough level areas in our area to get an idea of how wide that is. And you couldn't see that distance. You'd see a mountain or a hillside before you got that far,
Yeah.
unless you were at the peak of one of those.
I guess we could go to Shikati.
Yeah,
I suggest
right
you
here.
look up some of the videos, especially this one. It was monster. The El Reno of 2013 attracted, by its size, approximately 250 storm chasers to the area. However, the tornado's unpredictable path and immense power caused the chasers to be chased by the storm.
The hunter becomes the hunted.
Yep. Some found themselves directly in the path of the massive tornado, with farm equipment being hurled towards their vehicles.
That would have made a good Twisted movie.
Yes. This is the one that actually killed the first storm chasers.
Oh,
For the first time in recorded history, at least 3 storm chasers lost their lives in the El Reno tornado. The National Weather Service had issued a tornado warning at 5:33 p.m., and less than an hour later at 6:03 p.m., a large tornado touched down southwest of El Reno. Initially, the tornado consisted of several smaller subvortices, but it rapidly intensified, becoming more powerful and destructive.
So a warning means it's there. A watch means it could be there eventually.
A warning is there. It's there.
Okay.
It's on the ground. Winds within the El Reno tornado were measured at an astonishing speed of over 296 miles per hour. This is the second highest wind speed ever recorded worldwide. I wonder what the... Oh, just shy of the 302 mile per hour winds measured during the breeze...
The stiff breeze that everybody tells you about. Oh, she'd fly over in a stiff breeze. That's what they're talking about, 400-mile-an-hour winds.
Just shy of the 302 mile per hour winds measured during the Bridge Creek Moore tornado, which I also have in here.
But you got to think of the size, too.
Uh-huh.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Might become in second place in speed, but it's certainly not lacking in girth.
Nope. Even though it was incredibly powerful with high wind speeds, it was officially rated an EF3 tornado based on the damage it caused.
So we got lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunate for some, but it could have been much worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
This highlights the fact that the enhanced Fujita scale primarily considered the damage inflicted to determine a tornado's rating, rather than just the wind speeds.
That is an issue, yes.
The El Reno tornado was particularly dangerous due to its unpredictable nature and immense size, and it proved to be fatal for the storm chaser team known as Twistex. Tim Samaras, Paul Samaras, and Carl Young were chasing the tornado in a Chevy Cobalt.
You shouldn't laugh at this, but it was a silly idea, I suppose.
They misjudged its path, and the vehicle was caught in the tornado's powerful winds, which pulled the car up. It ejected Paul and Carl, and Tim was found still strapped to the passenger side of the car. All three experienced chasers lost their lives.
We record this as we're having a massive storm.
One meteorologist's car was hurled approximately 200 yards by the tornado, resulting in severe injuries to the driver, including a broken neck, fractured vertebrae, and several broken ribs.
I'm not a storm chaser. I get a little anxious just watching them sometimes after being within miles of an actual tornado.
I find them fascinating.
When the sky gets dark and the winds pick up, and I lived in a mobile home for a while over at Ethan's place, I got really anxious. Like, I would feel the place move occasionally in a strong wind. So I was like, I'm doomed. All I've got around me is barns and cows.
Oh.
And I'm on a hill. If it goes to rolling, if nothing else, I'll be rolling for a while. With my couch and my TV in the same room.
You could have went to the bathroom.
Yes, I'll roll around up the glass shards out of the windows and the and the mirrors. There was nowhere to go. I guess I could have hid in the closet with the hot water heater.
We really need to pile some dirt or something, more dirt on the dairy.
If you don't know about the dairy, look at her old TikTok with the night buddy flashlight. That you can see her dairy where the water comes from.
We can go hang out with the water pump. The meteorologist and another passenger in this vehicle sustained only minor injuries.
That's what he gets for knowing about the weather.
I guess so.
He didn't say it in the southwest corner of the car.
I wonder why that... I don't understand. But I'm not very good with direction either, so I wouldn't know the difference.
I had to get out my Apple Watch to show Mom where to look for the star or the meteor shower the other day.
Oh, there was a meteor shower?
Yeah, she had me walking out with her twice in the middle of the night.
No, I missed it.
We didn't see it either.
The El Reno tornado remained on the ground for about 40 minutes. It moved along 16.2 miles. Much of its path was over open terrain, which resulted in the less severe damage than if it had directly impacted a densely populated area.
Okay.
That's why it was EF3. Its immense size and unpredictable movements still caused it to be unique and caused the loss of life. And apparently it also had an almost invisible outer wind pattern, which is apparently a worst case scenario for storm chasers.
Because you can't see where, like, the cutoff line is.
I wasn't quite sure what this meant when I read it.
Okay,
I mean, there's pictures of the tornado. You can see the tornado.
You remember on the cruise?
Mm-hmm.
You remember the wind barriers there?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a storm on your cruise at any time?
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Neither of them.
Okay, well, it's like trying to open your car door in a stiff wind. You can't see it, but all of a sudden it hits like a train pretty much.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
imagine
So it's
that,
just
but
like,
strong enough to pick you up off the ground.
ah,
You just don't know where the barrier is.
okay. Okay, that makes sense.
It's terrifying because on the cruise, we had glass barriers in the storm, and you probably had the barriers up anyway.
Yeah,
but
the barriers were
yeah,
there.
okay. Well, when I put my head across from it, it blew a beanie off my head, tight to my head. It just flew away. So I could see how bad an actual 300-mile-an-hour wind like that would be.
Yeah,
Hit an invisible wall pretty much, and you're doomed.
that sucks.
Yeah.
The El Reno tornado caused 8 people to lose their lives, including the founder of TwistX, who had over 2 decades of experience, Tim Severus. It also had an estimated range of $30 to $40 million in damage. There was confusion surrounding the El Reno's tornado's F3 rating, as the wind speeds measured within the storm exceeding the EF5 classification, but as I mentioned, it was due to the damage.
Mm-hmm. The damage
It was
lowered.
mostly over open fields, so there wasn't that much damage.
I think they should be 2 separate categorizations.
Yeah.
It's a science. You don't have to
But-
make everything easy to understand.
Well,
Presumably, the people getting into it would understand. I'm not no expert. Maybe there's a reason they do this. I figured it's just to make it easier for laymen to understand, though.
I don't know. Apparently, it's harder to measure the wind speed of a tornado than it is a hurricane, but I don't know why.
Because hurricanes kind of blow in one direction, and you just kind of put something out there, and it measures it. Tornadoes, wind blowing everywhere, and anything you put in its path will most likely get destroyed. Imagine trying to get wind speeds inside of a tornado. I do believe they covered that in the first part of this Twisters movie.
I think you're right. There was a Piedmont El Reno tornado just a few years before that. It was in 2011. It was one of the most active and deadly years for tornadoes in the United States.
Yeah, we had one.
Over 550 deaths were reported. Among the most destructive was the Piedmont El Reno, and it struck on May 24th, 2011. Initially, it was rated an EF4, but it was upgraded to EF5 on June 1st, 2011. At its peak, it was over a mile wide. The Doppler station captured wind speeds of 295 miles per hour from the massive wedge tornado. The 2011 El Reno tornado's path of destruction eventually led it to Interstate I-40, where it took a deadly turn. 3 people lost their lives when their vehicles were caught in the powerful winds and hurled over 1,000 feet. Shortly after, 2 more lives were claimed in the same way. That's a hell of a ride.
I get nervous driving past large vehicles like semis
Yeah.
because I drove little trackers for a long time, and they would they had soft tops and they weighed enough to where 2 people could pick them up. It's scary to imagine something with,
Yeah.
that much power.
It also demonstrated its immense power north of I-40 when it rolled a massive oil rig weighing 2 million pounds. Multiple times. It rolled it multiple times.
Ooh.
By the time the tornado reached residential areas in Piedmont, it was at EF4 strength. 2 young children lost their lives in their homes, which lacked storm shelters and were completely destroyed by the tornado's force. The 2011 El Reno tornado carved a devastating 60-mile path through Oklahoma. It left a trail of destruction behind. Cars were found twisted around debarked trees, with one vehicle suffering such extreme damage that its engine was completely separated from the car's body. The tornado resulted in a total of 9 deaths and 181 people injured. While this loss of life is still tragic, the number of casualties was lower than it could have been, considering the tornado's immense size and power. It's believed that accurate forecasting and timely warnings played a crucial role in saving lives and helping to keep the total death number lower.
Everybody had a compass and knew where to go. No southwest corners for me.
Oh. Many people listened to the warnings and sought shelter, which also reduced the potential for more death. The aftermath of the tornado was long and difficult for the affected communities. Many people were displaced from their homes while they faced the task of cleaning up and rebuilding. The process took years for some to fully restore their lives, homes, and communities.
It took us a while to recover from the one we had around here.
Mm-hmm.
They were replacing roofs for a long time.
Yeah.
I know, because when I go up 81, I'd see all the houses of tarps over them and everything.
I bet the roofing companies had a field day.
Good news is, the southwest corner of this house is Mama's room.
I guess go in this closet, even though you're not supposed to stay in a mobile home at all. Everybody just pile into the closet.
Yeah.
The Mayfield, Kentucky tornado is next. It's the one that was in Dixie Alley. On December 10th, 2021, a powerful supercell storm unleashed a series of tornadoes. carving a path of destruction across 4 states in just 4 hours. One particularly long-lasting and destructive tornado formed in Tennessee near the Kentucky border at about 8:49 p.m. Central Time. This tornado remained on the ground for 2 hours and 58 minutes.
The nighttime ones are the scariest.
Yeah. It left a trail of devastation stretching 165 miles through Kentucky. Its path was the 9th longest to be recorded.
That's a long way for anything of that kind of destruction to...
Yes. And just a reminder, average amount of time for a tornado to usually last is around 10 to 15 minutes. This one lasted pretty much 3 hours. The devastating EF4 tornado was about 1.13 miles wide, and it resulted in a loss of 81 lives in Kentucky alone. It also left 500 people injured. While fall tornadoes are typically less intense, the Mayfield twister became the exception. This happened at the same time as record-breaking temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico, which were the hottest they had been in 4 decades. The unusually warmer water during that time fueled increased evaporation, which pumped extra moisture into the atmosphere, and as this moist air moved inland, it made a blast of cold northern air and strong upper-level winds, and this created the perfect conditions for a monster storm. On the day of the tornado, about 110 workers were inside the Mayfield Consumer Products Factory, which was also called the Candle Factory. Despite the impending danger, some workers who requested to leave were reportedly instructed to remain at work.
I sense a lawsuit.
I don't think so. I didn't hear anything about it if there was.
Now, you can't tell me that tornado heading your way and the company don't want... Most companies
I
say,
don't
if
care.
you can
I'm leaving
leave,
either way.
we don't want to be responsible for what happens.
Yeah.
This one says, no, you stay right here and just stay away from the southwest corner.
Yeah. The factory took a direct hit from the tornado, which caused the entire building to collapse on top of the employees. The survivors found themselves trapped beneath the rubble, and in a desperate attempt to get help, some used Facebook to broadcast pleas for assistance to anyone outside who could help dig them out of the debris.
They had them on the news talking about it.
Yeah.
I do remember this now. 2021, it's a wonder I remember anything from that year. It just melds together.
Yeah. It has been that way for the past, 4 years?
It's a
5
while.
years?
Yeah.
After the devastating impact on Mayfield, the tornado continued its path, showing no signs of weakening. About 100 miles from Mayfield lay the town of Bremen, Kentucky, which was next on the path of the tornado. Survivors in Bremen described watching the roofs get ripped off the ceilings, and in this area, the tornado reached peak wind speeds of 90 miles per hour. What?
Watching the roofs get ripped off their homes, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, homes, not ceilings. The ceiling is what's getting ripped off. In this area, the tornado... I already said that. You're distracting me.
I ain't the one that got it wrong.
Many items were found hundreds of miles from their original locations. Some individuals even discovered their personal photographs in areas that were a 3.5-hour drive away from their home.
Well, somebody had to have...
There are some people when this stuff happens, and the reason I'm saying that is because I was like, how did you find that? Some people will find these pictures of random people after a disaster like this, and they'll put them together and they'll post them online and find ways to try to find the original owners.
Can you imagine living in a location where things like that become a necessity? Tornado Alley, that's just a part of life. You got to accept there.
Yeah.
You need a Facebook group to track down all the missing stuff out of your home.
I don't remember which one it was, but one woman said the tornado had completely took her house. Her house was gone. But in her yard was a perfectly fine bottle of champagne that was not hers.
Oh, congratulations.
So it's like, make trade. I'll take your house and I'll leave you the champagne.
I'll leave you an insurance claim.
I'd rather have
I always
my
heard the
house.
story about the cabinet that got lifted up and set down with the fine china and is still fine.
Yeah.
I got that in a book of strange things of some sort around here. There's a picture. I assume it's
like
real.
Some of the stuff in the Titanic was where it was supposed to be and not broken, perfectly fine. It's just fascinating how that happens. The people of Mayfield worked together to help each other out after the disaster. There were signs that was popping up that said Mayfield strong as
strong as a tornado or just strong in the community?
No, they just worked well as a community. They got together, helped their neighbors to clean up and rebuild.
Okay, good.
Which seems to happen after a tornado a lot.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's all you have is your community. People who have been through the same thing.
Yeah.
And I guess when you live in Tornado Alley, you have a large, large community.
Yep. The tornado carved a path of destruction through multiple Kentucky communities, including Casey. There was 1 life lost, 5 people were injured, and 65 structures were destroyed. Mayfield, 24 lives were lost, 225 were injured, and 2,175 structures were reduced to rubble. The town of Cambridge suffered 1 death, 54 injuries, and 697 structures were damaged. In Princeton, the tornado claimed 4 lives, left 11 injured, and obliterated over 300 structures. Dawson lost 16 people, was left with 200 injured, and over 1,500 structures were damaged.
That one got really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to structures alone.
Yes. And finally, in Bremen, the storm's power resulted in 11 deaths, 25 injuries, and damaged 165 structures.
It's just a swath of destruction, like you said. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the financial cost to keep places like that up and afloat?
No.
How does insurance companies even stay open?
On May 22nd, 2011, a massive multi-vortex EF5 tornado tore through Joplin, Missouri, leaving a trail of destruction. Insurance companies alone reported at least $2 billion in damages. Thousands were left homeless. 161 lives were lost, and over 1,000 more were left injured. Its path of destruction was about 6 miles long and up to 1.6 miles wide at its peak, and it lasted about 32 minutes.
All these are just terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm glad I live in the hills.
This tornado was part of a larger tornado outbreak that affected several other states. At around 4:30 p.m., storms started brewing. Just 17 minutes later, a mile-wide tornado was seen barreling towards Joplin. Radar picked up a high-density signal showing a swirling mass of debris being tossed into the air. With winds reaching up to 200 miles per hour, neighborhoods were left in ruins. The twister intensified quickly. Its destructive power escalated to an EF5 rating within a matter of minutes. The National Weather Service issued a tornado warning for Joplin about 24 minutes before the twister touched down. It grew into a powerful beast so quickly because the supercell storm that created it had smaller storms moving in from behind. These smaller storms merged with the supercell, which boosted its strength and the spin. The merge of the smaller storms and the supercell combined with the perfect atmospheric conditions created the powerful twister and helped it to intensify to the powerful EF5 rating, so within minutes.
Yes. At least they had 20-some minutes to, get their compasses out and determine what side of the house to run. It sounds like plenty of time to hide from a tornado, but then you got to think, I've got to collect everything that is important to me.
I don't
if I
think
can.
you're supposed to.
No, you're not supposed to, but people do.
But I'm not going to leave my dogs to die. In the aftermath of the Joplin twister, it was discovered that only about 18% of homes in the path had shelters or basements. None of the deaths occurred in the homes that were built with those features. It also became clear that poorly constructed homes with weak roofs and foundations played a significant role in the devastating loss of life and property. The St. John's Regional Medical Center took a direct hit from the twister. Its sturdy outer walls of steel and concrete remained standing. However, the wind and debris shattered the windows, which exposed the weaker interior walls, causing 14 lives to be lost in the hospital. After this disaster, building codes were updated to require tornado safety rooms in public buildings. The hospital was rebuilt with reinforced walls and a better roof, and the windows put in during construction were made to handle winds up to 200 miles per hour.
Yes. That would make me feel safer if I was laying in the hospital and knew a tornado was coming.
Mm-hmm.
I would like that if every hospital had. We spend so much money there. Why can't they build them to that standard, no matter where they're at?
Yeah.
As much money goes into the healthcare business in America. They should build those things not just to be comfortable, but as safe as possible for anything that could come its way, because they are important when something does come to the community.
Yeah.
Even if it's very unlikely to happen, it's better to be prepared, and a hospital should be the one place in a town that is guaranteed.
Well, we were told to go to the old hospital. They obviously tore it down and built the new one elsewhere, farther away. But the old one had that car garage thing, and it said not to go where there's cars, but we were told to go to the hospital car garage.
Yeah.
And I guess, well, no, because I don't know, because you have cars, many, many cars, but you also have that opened Did they have doors on that garage?
They
I
have,
don't remember.
everything is an open area. You have
so wouldn't that cause the same
suction effect?
suction?
You would think. It's the sturdiest building around, though, that I could think of.
Not anymore.
The new hospital they built down the road is nothing but glass.
Nothing but glass.
Yeah.
It's all glass.
Well, it's too far away for us to get to, but Abingdon High School, since it was built in the Cold War, does have a fallout shelter.
That's what I was thinking when I was taking these notes. I was like, but how are we going to get there in time?
There's no happening. I mean, we barely
Unless we're out and about and close to that.
We got a mile between me and Brandon's old house where he's staying at, and in that 1 mile between here and there, it got so dark that he drove off a road that's a straight line.
Don't they have a basement?
Yeah, that's where we
Couldn't
were going.
we just break in?
We were going to his grandpa's basement because it was so bad. From my house to there, and it was so dark, he drove right off the road into a giant hole where he thought the driveway was.
I don't think that next time his grandpa visits, you should say, can we get into your house that you no longer live in and stay in that basement if there's ever a tornado?
That's exactly what we left the house and was heading towards that basement. And because we got so dark and then I got the tornado thing. And so we it's just a mile up the road. It's a straight line. Let's head that way. And we didn't get that far because he drove off the road and I couldn't get around him. I was sitting next to giant trees that are teetering on a hillside. I said, I'm going to die here. I'm just going to get crushed. That's what's going to happen. It didn't happen. The trees are still standing.
Yeah, the sound was definitely, you could hear it from here, obviously. I mean, you were right down the road, but just the sound, and the tornado wasn't even that close to us. Yeah. And the sound was nothing like I'd ever heard before.
It was like 20 miles away.
Well, I guess it would be terrifying. I was fascinated. Mom was terrified.
Uh-huh. Our grandpa sat on the porch one day out here in the old house and seen a tornado, said, there's a tornado over there. Nobody believed him until it was on the news next day.
I told you so.
Yeah. But it's a mountain away.
Yeah.
Over the mountain. He's seen the upper half of a tornado.
Yeah. From my porch, you can see sometimes the rain comes from the hill area behind and I don't get to see it, but sometimes you can see it coming from down the holler.
But it's not like we live in a flat area. It's all mountainsides. You can hear it before you see it. It's like a loud, windy sound, but it's actually, it's a little different and you can look over and see the rain hitting your way.
Yep. It's like when that gust of wind started yesterday or close to, it was night pretty much. And I had the dogs outside. I was like, oh crap, it's going to start pouring rain on my dogs. And I had to rush them in.
Yeah, you could tell, but I seen nothing of a tornado and it was so dark I couldn't have seen. It was in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Anytime it gets dark like that in the middle of the day, I think, oh dear, because of that one tornado. And I was fine. My vehicle, we lived in a spot where all we had was high winds. Our vehicles didn't get pelted by hail, and obviously the tornado itself was miles away, but it was enough to alarm me. And now every time it gets like that, I think of it. It was dangerous. Trees did fall everywhere. I was just lucky.
Yeah, I went and drove around the next day to look at the
very thing they tell you not to
do.
Don't get in the way of rescuers and cleanup crew. But here we are, sightseeing. Was that all for today?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that was fun. We learned a little bit.
Next week, we'll get into more.
Again, thank you. And if you enjoyed what you heard here, we have a lot of other stuff. If you want to look at our older episodes, if you want to find our other podcasts, Gruesome Gaming Group is our podcast network. Brother Knows Quest, it's a podcast where I tell my sister here about different tabletop role-playing games each episode. And then we have Leveling Duo, which comes out sporadically because we don't play a new video game every week, but it's about video games. Me and my sister or me and my friend Dakota will talk about one that we particularly enjoy. But yeah, there'll be a Linktree link in the description below. It will take you to our Gruesome Gaming Group homepage where you can find all our podcasts and sub through there. It'll also take you to our YouTube if you want to watch me play a little bit of Oblivion or other video games, and you can find our podcast there. There'll be all of our social accounts if you want to reach out, follow us, give us ideas, things to do, or just say hi. And also there's a email link in the description that will let you chat with Beth or me. The Gruesome Gaming Group one goes to me, and the Horrific History and Haunting one goes to her. But you can message either one of them about anything, and we'll forward it to whoever it's relevant to. There's also a link to Tip site. Our hosting service supplies a option to put up tips, and so we did. So if you want to do that, it would help keep the hosting costs covered. It's very appreciated. It's handled by Stripe, I do believe, so it's secure. And I guess that's it. Let us know what you think, and keep the reviews coming in. We appreciate them. And I suppose that's all, right, Beth?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening. I've been Ramey.
And I'm Beth.
And this has been HH&H. Bye-bye.